So I've been asked to give a few reflections this evening, a few thoughts. We're in the middle of our Katina celebration here at Abhayagiri, and having had 3 out of 6 days of coming together, small groups, 30 or so people, each of the days so far, and about the same to come, I think, for the next few days, to gather and celebrate the completion of the Vasa period, the rains retreat, where the members of the communities stayed in one monastery for that period of time, period of stability, and coming together with the lay supporters who are making offerings of cloth and other requisites for the benefit of the monastery's operations. So a very nice time of community that we're experiencing right now. Lungpa, Pasano, myself, Anagar Katai spent the rains retreat up in our hermitage, Pacific Hermitage, in White Salmon, Washington, along the Columbia River Gorge, but made it back here shortly after the ending of Vasa to join in with the community's Katina here this year. So fluid communities, it's really nice to be back here and enjoying the camaraderie of bhikkhus, lay friends, supporters, the broad community, and to just rejoice in the flourishing of this good thing that's happening here. So nice to feel a part of it, even having been away for 4 months. Coming back to it feels very welcoming, very inspiring. It's been a long day today, and there's been a lot of activities. Some of us have woke up this morning and came down for alms round, then the mealtime offering, then one of the Katina ceremonies. Then we had our, because it's the new moon observance day, the bhikkhus had the recitation of the Patimokkha this afternoon, and tea time, and now an evening reflection. So quite a full day, and on top of a couple of days of Katina ceremonies and a few more to come. So might be a bit of weariness in the air, but a good kind of weariness. Been a lot of reflections over the past few days, and just sort of drawing on some of the themes that Lungpa, Pasano, Tanaja Namaro, Ajahn Yanako have been talking about over the past couple of days, various themes rolling around in my head, various tidbits of Dhamma. One of the things that was coming up actually just at today's Patimokkha Ovada discourse that Lungpa Pasano was talking about a bit, was just rejoicing in this communal gathering of goodness, the goodness that comes with the gathering of people who are all committed to very high values, noting that there's so much negativity and cynicism these days in the world around us. We see it in political, social issues that keep arising, just some difficulties in the world these days, all fueled by pandemic and the stresses that people are feeling and coming out in ways that are in some ways natural, but natural not in such a very useful way of negativity, cynicism. I reflect on the importance of not getting caught in those states of mind. So easy to. It's kind of a tunnel that's really easy to go down. We hear things that excite the mind, and we look for external situations to blame the difficulties that we experience. We want to think that there's some source that we can pin the blame on, and if only we can right that wrong, then everything would be okay. And it's just a relentless downhill kind of mind state that if we buy into it, it's just it doesn't go anywhere. And it's not just externally in the world when we experience our own internal difficulties, struggles, whether in the lay life or the monastic life. We can sometimes respond in the same way. If we experience some unrelenting mind states, some just the difficulties of trying to live a good life and live a useful life, and being bombarded with internal mind states that are very hard to bear sometimes, whether it's anger or relentless sensual lust or desires, cravings, doubts, any of the states of confusion, delusion, restlessness, all of these different difficult mind states. So easy to let them result in a negative or cynical mind state, if not projected outward to some external source to blame, then projected inwards to a self-blaming, a sense of self, worthlessness or inability to kind of make progress with the practice or on the path or in our lives. This is true whether it's monastic or the lay community. Sometimes the difficulties, the obstructions that we experience in our practice just come so hard at us, and we get this sense of despair, and just kind of wonder, what's the point? Why do I put up with this? It's not going to go anywhere, and can experience these great periods of doubt and difficulty. So just acknowledging that and knowing that that's a common experience for all of us. And there's not any one of us who hasn't gone through periods like this in one way or another with some difficulty or another, which doesn't necessarily make it any easier, but sometimes it's useful to expand a little bit and realize that it's not just me. And the question is, of course, how to deal with that, how to use the resources that we have to to be able to lift ourselves up out of it, to not stay down in a state of difficulty or despair, but what resources can we muster to pull ourselves up and keep going. I've been reading a book that somebody gave to me recently. This very compelling book. I'd heard of it before, but had never taken the time to look into it and read it, and came up in a conversation while I was up at the Hermitage. And this person was kind enough to pass on this book. It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Victor Frankel. And I've only gotten halfway through it. I've finished the first section, which is more of an account of some of his experiences and haven't gotten to the second section yet. But Victor Frankel was a man in Austria. I believe he was a psychiatrist at the time of World War II, and he was interned into Auschwitz during the war and was a prisoner there for at least a couple of years, I think, a long time anyway. And the book is sort of his notes about his own internal state of mind while he was in the concentration camps. He went to several, actually. I think most of his time was in Auschwitz in Poland. Right at the beginning, he was very clear that he wasn't writing this book as an account of all of the atrocities and painful circumstances that occurred while he was there, although, of course, he had to relate some of them for the context of his internal processes that he wanted to report and record. But just enough to give the flavor of what he was responding to and how he responded to it, and then expounding on his internal dimensions and what he saw as the internal mechanisms at work for the other people that he was interned with there. And he was just an incredibly compelling and reflective person, and was able, one of the few really, who was able to, in a sense, transcend the horrors of being in that situation. You know, the people, I'm sure, are aware that there was, of course, the physical horrors, the extreme deprivation, starvation, torture sometimes, and just incredibly relentless, hard physical conditions, extreme cold, extreme hard work, malnutrition, barely a subsistence diet, barely enough to keep alive, and all of the disease that would go around in these extremely crowded conditions. And this is if you're lucky enough to have escaped the extermination chambers, the gas chambers, and watching your friends, relatives being taken to those. And so there's all the physical deprivation, but also the psychological difficulties, the psychological horrors of just being, relentlessly pounded upon, essentially, psychologically tortured day after day. And he was able to stay enough on top of it to honestly experience and allow in what was happening without moving into a great state of denial or repression, but also not to. He just was so determined not to give in and not to let it break him. I think one of the hallmark reactions that he after the initial horror and fears and anxieties of coming into the situation when you're first into the camps, then the kind of middle phase of what turns into intense indifference and apathy as a way of escaping the psychological pain, just basically tuning out, checking out, and moving into a very indifferent state of psychological annihilation, just to be able to cope. And how he, could see these happening around him and could see the allure of these different kind of coping mechanisms, but just relentlessly not allowing himself to completely collapse into them. Not sure where that came from, but just this kind of inner resource, this inner drive to not give in into these difficult, horrifying mind states. And how over time, too, he was able to be of service and to be of help in some small ways to his fellow inmates, his fellow prisoners there, and able to offer periods of reflection and support in small ways that were under the radar, because if you did too much of that kind of stuff, you'd just get punished and beaten, and you know, it wasn't allowed to be too much like that, but just in more subterranean ways that he was able to help and pull himself up time after time when doubts and confusion and difficulties were to arise. So it's a very inspiring, extremely inspiring story that I think we can all benefit from when we reflect on that. And, you know, in a situation like that, how extreme it is, and yet there is this potential to not succumb, not to fall down deep like that. And a couple of the ways that he would do that would be just to not allow oneself to, the thought patterns, to just dwell on the hopelessness and the despair, but even in you know, ways that may not have been so honest or accurate, but well, I guess they were. Just even recalling, refusing to attend to any present moment horrendous difficulties, but allowing oneself to return to memories of good things, of good times, allowing oneself to project into the future at least the possibility or the hope of coming out of it, of a return to goodness, a return to some sort of more normal states of mind, states of experience, and to allow the mind to just attend to those memories that were beneficial, useful, and could bring up a sense of hope and warmth, or the future potentials, no matter how impossible they seemed, to allow the mind to move in that direction rather than just succumbing to the present moment horrors of what's going on, without denying, without repressing those as they came in, but not to dwell on them. One of his takes, or one of his ways of expressing that, ends up being, in my mind, you know, very, very Buddhist in a way, even though he didn't talk about that at all, but just talking about the patterns that we all operate under of stimulus and response, and that the key to freedom and happiness is noticing and realizing that moment between stimulus and response, that there is a gap between stimulus and response, whether it's coming from physical circumstances, mental, psychological experiences that come up, and then there's a pause, a gap, no matter how small, and then the response. And his conclusion and his experience that freedom, true freedom, is found in being able to navigate that gap in between, so that one chooses where to go from any particular experience or any particular situation. And that insight that he had, to me, is, you know, pretty much the crux of our training too, to be able to deal with what comes up, But before we respond, to acknowledge and consider and choose where we want to put our attention, how we want to respond. We do have that possibility. So if he can do that in situations like that, extreme, then it gives me hope that all of us, myself, myself and everybody else, can also do that when obstructions and difficulties come to our experience. And to just take delight in what we've been experiencing the past few days and in general, and just how fortunate we are to choose to be in this kind of environment and to choose to create this kind of environment that supports that notion. Sometimes we can lose our perspective with the world around us and forget that there are these pockets of goodness, these monasteries, our homes that we live in, where we can create an environment that supports that kind of reflection and turning towards the good, turning towards the skillful, turning towards what's going to be beneficial to ourselves and to other people. And that places like this monastery, these are repositories of skillful means and direction on where to turn, where to put our hearts, where to put our minds. And the values that we can aspire to, the values that lead to an end of suffering, all the values of virtue and goodness and generosity, the wisdom that we can develop, and the compassion that we can feel for ourselves and other people in these very difficult circumstances that we experience as human beings. And that occasions like coming together for katina over a week's period of time and coming and spending time here and bringing these resources back to our lives, back out in the world. This is the kind of world that we want to create. This is the kind of world that we can create, even in the midst of cynicism and negativity. So to really take refuge in this. This is refuge in the Sangha, the skillfulness and the good-heartedness of people who are struggling in the same ways that we are, trying to overcome these difficulties that are part of human experience. We all share these, and there's a set of skills and a set of values that we can nourish and keep to the fore all of the time. With the proper effort, we don't have to succumb. I think one of the other reflections that's kind of come up a number of times is in these past few days that I've been listening to, attending to, reflecting on is the importance of really developing or noticing how, when we are involved deeply with the perception of self, how this compounds and complicates our world and our experience. And it came up in a couple of discussions. One that coming to mind, a question and answer session with Ajahn Karunadhammo, when somebody was asking about boredom, the state of boredom, and his response was, you can't be bored if you are dwelling with the perception of not self. And just reflecting on that and realizing that this, when we are operating through and entangled with the perception of self, we can fall for all of the negative mind states or the obstructive mind states, whether it's boredom or all the other obstructive mind states. But that if we can learn and cultivate over time, little bit by little bit, this perception of not self, that yes, we have these tendencies, we have these habits, we have these effects of past actions, of where we put our mind, that are experienced as obstructive mind states. But we have the opportunity to not see them as who we are, and that even though we might still experience them, we don't have to pick them up and own them and travel with them and compound them. It's that taking that opportunity from a reflective position of this is phenomena, this is selfless phenomena happening. It's happening, it's painful, it's difficult, but I don't need to pick it up as mine. And when we have that perspective, then we've got some energy and some space to be able to be with them. We have the energy and space to be in the gap again between stimulus and response. And it takes the sting out of it. It takes the proliferative tendency out of that whole process. So dwelling and refreshing and reflecting that perception of not self is a major antidote to our experience of suffering. And how important, there's many different aspects of that. There's all the conventional ways of contemplating that and developing that perception, but it's also, I think, useful to contemplate the commonality of our experience with other people. Early on, before I was a monk, I remember reading some accounts from Stephen Levine. I think maybe they came up because I saw Noah Levine today. He was here visiting, and maybe jogged a memory of a teaching from his where he was recounting the experience of a woman who was in the process of dying. She was very ill with a terminal illness and was going through relentless pain and difficulty, physical discomfort, and was caught in mental resistance as well, with a lot of upset, anger, difficulty. Why is this happening? Why can't I get over this? Why is this so painful? And really suffering very, very much with the painful circumstances of her condition and the fact that it wasn't going to get any better, trying to come to terms with that. And the struggle and the suffering that was going on, reacting to this bodily difficulty and her eventual demise. And this was going on for quite some time, and the suffering was very intense. And then as she was going through that and also trying to be somewhat reflective with this process, trying to be more conscious as she was going through that, things got bad enough that she apparently seemed like, if I remember the story right, kind of went into this state, maybe a bit of a transcendent state of some sort, and she started to have visions and thoughts of all of the other people in the world who were going through these same kinds of experiences, and saw in great detail, individually, with visions of different people struggling, suffering with their own unique circumstances, person after person, time after time, in, kind of almost terrifying regularity. And through that, she had an epiphany of, this isn't me. This isn't mine. This is not I'm not the only one. This is not my suffering. This is the suffering. And the personalization of it as my suffering fell away, and she just realized and saw that the enormity, that this is the condition of the world. It's not hers only. It's a universal experience at some time or another. And being able to transcend the self-absorption, the self-obsession, that this was a unique experience happening to her, was her liberating moment, her epiphany, when she saw it as the suffering. So I've always reflected on that as a really important thing to reflect on for ourselves too, not just the conventional ways of trying to chip away at this perception of self, but to realize that these experiences, these difficulties, the human realm, we're all in it. We're all doing it. It is the nature of the human condition. And that just opens up a whole sense of compassion. And we can let go of the singularity of our own worlds. So whether it's, great, horrible, difficult experiences like being in a concentration camp, the worst you can probably imagine in the human realm, or whether it's the internal struggles of our own minds, the relentless pounding away of difficulties, realizing that this is the human condition. None of us are exempt from these experiences, and it's poignant. It's that real deep understanding and penetration of the First Noble Truth. There is suffering, and like stories like with Victor Frankel's, and then the stories that we hear from practitioners, nuns and monks and lay women, lay men, going through these experiences with honesty and clarity and openness, the realization that we don't have to succumb, we don't have to buy into it. We can, with tremendous effort sometimes, but with the support of each other and the encouragement of each other, realize that there's a way beyond this. There is an ending to this if we want to see it through, if we attend to it in the right way, and nourish and nurture these supportive qualities in our life, the goodness that comes from attention to virtue, attention to generosity, attention to sharing and helping each other. We share those abilities as we share the suffering in our lives. And it's this refuge in Sangha that, it is, as the Buddha said, it's the whole of the holy life, whether it's the holy life in the monastery or the holy life in the householder world outside. And we have to maintain this refuge of Sangha, this support. We have to come together, we have to support each other and be there for each other. We can't do it without that support and that refuge. And I just feel so grateful to to be part of this, and to see the people coming day after day. If ever I think, what is it that, am I doing a worthwhile thing? Is there something else that I should be doing? Is there a better way to be doing this? Am I up to this? If I ever have those thoughts, I can just reflect on the numbers of people that come here, that I experience, that I gain support from. And people want us to be here, all of us. People want us to keep going, keep doing what we're doing, because we do keep that alternative alive in the world. We don't have to succumb to the forces of difficulty, of negativity, of cynicism. And people appreciate being able to tap into that. And it takes a community of us to keep this alive. Lay people, lay supporters, monastics, doing what we can do to keep this alive. Because it's what else do we, all the material things, all the ways of the world, those are all so fleeting. But if we want to have a happy, peaceful mind when it comes time for us to die, move on, then this is what will last us through those periods. This is the long-lasting happiness that we can experience, and it's done through Sangha, done through our assembly of noble beings. As the chanting goes, they give occasion for incomparable goodness to arise in the world. So here we all are, keeping it alive, and if we feel despair at times, then it's good to reflect on what it is that we can do to help keep this a sane place to live. So I'll just leave it there for tonight's reflection.